In this series, lowimpact.org and the Open Credit Network talks with people working to build a mutually owned, democratic, decentralised economy that builds community and doesn't destroy nature. We want to increase collaboration to bring about system change. Find links to the sites mentioned in the videos in the description below. Join the conversation by liking, commenting and subscribing to our channel.
Today I'm talking with Debbie Clarke of Unicorn Grocery. It's a cooperative grocery store in Manchester, and the thing I'm particularly interested in about Unicorn Grocery is that it instead of wanting to become a huge chain, they've got a toolkit called Grow Your Own Grocery to help people set up cooperative grocery stores in their own towns. Hi Debbie, have I got that right?
That is right, yes. Hi.
Hi. So tell me more about Unicorn Grocery. When did it start?
Yeah, so we opened our doors in 1996, September actually. So we've just had our 23rd birthday, and yeah, there was it was a fairly small group of people at that point. The original work was done by a couple of three people, and then I think by opening day we had 4 or 5 co-op members. And really, I think their main motivation was to create a shop that they wanted to shop in. They didn't feel like their needs were being met. They didn't like what the supermarkets had to offer, but they were also finding it quite expensive and difficult to source the food they wanted to eat in your kind of more traditional small health food shops, which, you know, they were doing a fantastic job, but because of their size, they weren't able to, you know, really compete on price and range with supermarkets. So that was the aim, to create an alternative to the supermarket.
Yeah. How big is it now? How many staff and turnover and things like that?
I can never remember the physical size, but we have about 68 co-op members now.
Yeah.
And we turn over around 8 million. Well, it'll be about 8 million this year.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how's business? How's it doing?
It's great. I mean, we've had, you know, a lot of growth over our trading history, and we've grown in terms of turnover, in terms of physical footprint, in terms of, you know, customer numbers, all that kind of thing. Growth has finally sort of slowed down now. We've had a period of probably about, I can't remember how many years now, but we were seeing double-digit growth, you know, in terms of turnover for a good 5, 6, 7 years, just year on year, sort of, you know, 10, 15% growth. And to be honest, that wasn't sustainable. We couldn't do that forever. You know, we're limited by lots of factors, including just the size of the site and the size of the car park and the size of the shop and things like that. But I think there's just been this sort of explosion of interest in the stuff that we do, in more responsible trading practices, in eating wholesome food, in cooking from scratch, and I think as well in supporting businesses that are challenging the status quo in terms of kind of economic relations and motivations. You know, the reason we set up to trade was to sort of meet these principles of you know, fair and sustainable trade, wholesome food, solidarity and cooperation. And I think those sort of drivers are really interesting to people at the moment.
And when did you get involved?
So I've been there 15 years now. I started quite soon after I left university. I moved back. I'm from Manchester originally, and I moved back and just picked up some casual shifts there, thinking, you know, this is very aligned with, you know, with my values. But I had no idea that I just thought I'd do it for 6 months, you know, while I worked out what I wanted to do. And it turned out that was it.
So you were interested in co-ops before Unicorn, or was it Unicorn that got you into the idea?
No, do you know, I knew very little about co-ops. Funnily enough, I had actually been part of a small consumer co-op at university, a whole food co-op, like a buying group. But I didn't really understand what a co-op was even then. And I was drawn to Unicorn really by more about the products we sourced and the products we sold and how we sourced them. So I'd done international development, and I was interested in fair trade and how organic production, had a better sort of supply chain and less impact on people and planet and so on. So it was really that. Right. And I had the co-op thing was, it didn't even particularly register initially, but as time has gone on, without a doubt, that's become absolutely crucial for me and probably the most important factor.
Yeah. What's it like working for a co-op grocery?
What's it like? It's amazing. I mean, I love it. I absolutely love it, and that's why I'm still there. It is an incredibly sort of empowering way to work, to feel that sense of ownership, really feel ownership of the business. And, there's so much pride that comes with being an owner of a business that, we feel is doing a pretty decent job. It's amazing working with all these people who have kind of signed up for, this collective ownership and all these principles that we're sort of grounded on, the sense of all being in it together, and things like having flat pay and not having a real sort of management hierarchy are really important for that. There's a real sense of sort of equality and equity, and
when you say so you all earn the same?
We do. We all. The hourly wage is the same for everybody, no matter what sort of role they play in the business. Okay. Yeah.
And how often are your meetings and how are decisions made?
Yeah, so that's a good question. I mean, there's always been a lot of things devolved, even right from the beginning. But obviously, as the number of co-op members has grown, that devolving has continued. So we can't, obviously 68 people couldn't and shouldn't be trying to make all the decisions together. So we have departments and teams which make the sort of operational decisions for their parts of the business, and they generally meet fortnightly. And then there's a sort of group of representatives from those teams that also meets fortnightly. And then as a membership, we meet between 4 and 6 times a year, usually 4. And that's to make the really kind of, it's to sort of check in with each other and, report and scrutinise each other's activities, but to make the really big sort of strategic decisions that are going to shape the way the business, operates in the future. And the decisions on things like employment policies that are going to affect all of us. We still make decisions on those together.
And how are decisions made?
So generally, so we've always used consensus. So voting is a last resort, and we've very rarely used that. We're trying to make decisions that everybody can live with, not necessarily that are everybody's first choice, because that isn't possible, but decisions that people can, that sit okay with people. So learning how to do that is a process. And it's not always easy, and it's sometimes quite time consuming, but we do end up, hopefully with decisions that aren't really making anyone feel marginalized or completely unheard. So you could describe it as consensus or consent. There's slight differences to it, but there's definitely kind of compromise involved, and accepting that you're not always gonna get to your absolutely sort of most preferred option, but it's got to be something that everybody can live with.
Yeah, I lived at Redfield Community in Buckinghamshire for 14 years, and
right,
we used consensus decision making.
Okay, yeah.
It just means that nothing ever happens that somebody's really opposed to.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
And if you are really opposed to something and everybody else wants it to happen, you can dig your heels in and say, that's really going to affect me badly, and I don't want it to happen.
Yeah.
I think in the 14 years I was there, that only happened once.
Right. Yeah.
And it was about a particular tree that was going to be cut down. And
Yeah.
I really don't want that tree cut down.
Right.
And actually, on reflection, later on, I changed my mind as well. And I thought, actually, he was right. That would have changed the view completely. And
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah. We actually, in the last few years, we've used in members' meetings, we've used a sort of modified consensus where it actually takes 3 people to block something. So in a way, it's a bit more, yeah, it's not quite, we got to the stage where when we had, because at our largest, we had about 73 members. We've managed to streamline a little bit since then, but, you know, as people have left, we haven't always replaced them. But with that number of people, having one block being able to prevent something happening, it was just getting too, unfortunately, we felt it was too difficult to achieve. But yeah, it very rarely happens, actually. And I think there's a lot of, you know, talking and negotiation and compromises being made way before something gets to the meeting stage, so that ideally you're not in that situation on the day. And maybe something would be withdrawn and discussed and reshaped, you know, to avoid that happening.
And which team are you in?
So I am in 3. We're generally on more than 1. Although again, as we've got bigger, we've had to streamline that a little bit, because we were getting these teams that were getting to like 15, 20 people, where it becomes quite unwieldy to be making quite small operational decisions with that many people. So I am part of the education and marketing team, which looks after, I mostly have a sort of role in communications with customers and the community and the wider world, hence doing this interview. And then I am also on the team that helps administer our 1 and 4% funds, which is the way we distribute some of our profits to local and international projects that are sort of, you know, sharing our aims and values.
All right.
So that's a fascinating and really lovely thing to be part of. And then the last one is a team that was formed just in the last couple of years, looking at our governance and management structure, and particularly learning about sociocracy as a governance model, and sort of, learning about that with the intention of sort of implementing it throughout the business.
Yeah, I should say that we met at the Ways Forward conference in Manchester earlier this year, and there was a session on sociocracy. I'd never tried it before, but it's very interesting. So are you using that?
We are, yeah. I mean, it's been, I think we started learning about it a good, probably over a year and a half ago, that group was formed, and did a short online course with SOFA in the States, Sociocracy for All. But yeah, we're at the stage where most of our team meetings, or circles as we're calling them now, in sort of sociocracy speak, are using sociocratic kind of meeting methods and management methods to sort of operate, you know, their parts of the business. So it's been really, really helpful. I mean, a lot of it is just kind of common sense, but it coming in a package like that and getting some support from SOFA and other people in implementing it has been great. So we have shrunk the size of some of those teams that were getting too big, by consent of the people involved. Obviously, people have sort of chosen where they want to specialise, and we are generally speaking in rounds in meetings. We've sort of done a bit of sort of, you know, re-educating ourselves about what consent means and what it doesn't mean, and you know, what it means to object and how you deal with that. And another really, again, it's real common sense, but having well-prepared agendas, which SOFA has really supported us with, has made a big difference to meetings and management. And
so are you a fan of sociocracy?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely elements of it that we haven't felt were a good fit for us, but overall, yeah, it's brought, you know, there's been loads of stuff that's really enriched the way we operate, definitely.
And where can people go if they want to find out more about sociocracy?
Well, our starting point was Sociocracy for All, which is a small organisation based in the US. And we did a short course online with them, and then had some ongoing support from them after that. But there's plenty of other places. I mean, I think probably all the different organisations interpret it or do it very slightly differently. But there's a lot out there.
Is there basic information on Sociocracy for All's website?
Definitely, yeah. I think that would be a really good place to start.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, how did Unicorn start? How did you get the investment?
Well, it was an uphill struggle at first. I think conventional lenders were incredibly sceptical about this proposed business that was going to be the size of a supermarket, but it wasn't going to sell animal products, and it wasn't going to have a boss, and there weren't going to be shareholders or, you know, investors having a say in it. And the founders were going to be working on the tills and cleaning the, you know, and all this stuff. It was just like, I think the banks were just like, no way, this isn't going to happen. We're not giving you our money. But we did get a lot of support from what is now cooperative and community finance, which I expect you're familiar with. It's a specialist co-op lender. They were called
ICOF
that's it, ICOF or ICOM, yeah. But yeah, so they were very supportive, and a bit of loan stock was raised as well by the founder members, where people could buy sort of like a bond, I guess, but it didn't give anyone a stake or a say in the business. It was just a loan, a sort of no strings loan that would be paid back after 5 years. So yeah, I think they were the main methods.
Do vacancies come up very often?
Yeah, we recruit like any other business when there is a need for it. I mean, at the moment, we're not aiming to grow the membership, and staff turnover is fairly low. I mean, staff retention for the retail sector is extremely good, as you'd imagine. It's different from just sort of working in a supermarket. It's something that we do ask for a fair bit of commitment from people, and yeah, there's lots of people that have been there, 5-10 years and counting. But yeah, we recruited a few months ago, and a couple of people have left since then. So we'll probably be recruiting again fairly soon.
What sort of things do you sell?
Yeah, I realise we haven't really talked about that. So yeah, that's a big part of us. Obviously, we're aiming to compete with the supermarkets on range, but it might be quite an unfamiliar. Our shelves might be quite an unfamiliar sight if you're coming, from having shopped at Asda or Tesco, because a lot of the brands are different. So we're selling products where we can that are organic, lower packaging, fairly traded, produced by other social enterprises. There's lots of sort of different criteria in our sourcing, but the bottom line is that they have to be affordable and taste good and be wholesome. I mean, I'm not, it's not a health food shop, but we're also trying to avoid, the real high levels of like processed food, refined sugars, lots of salt and stuff like that. But when you walk in, the first thing that hits you is this huge fruit and veg display. That's where about a quarter of our sales come from. And it's probably one of the biggest draws, I think, for people to the shop, because it's just beautiful. It's like super, super fresh, hardly any packaging. So you can pick up stuff, you can smell it, you can touch it, you can, pick 3 tomatoes off a vine, or, break a bunch of bananas in 2. You don't have to buy everything in sort of assigned quantities. And it's just really, really tasty stuff. So I think that's a big draw. And then we have quite a lot of sort of basic whole foods to cook with. So your grains, your pulses, your dried fruits and nuts, spices, all that kind of thing. And that's about another 20% of our sales. And then it's just sort of general grocery, household. We have a deli counter. So yeah.
God, I wish there was a branch in Tooting.
Well, download our Grow a Grocery guide.
Well, yeah, I'm coming to that.
So,
But what if you can't get something that's local or organic or fair
yeah,
trade?
yeah. So yeah,
full range that the supermarkets provide.
Exactly. Yeah. So it's this constant balancing between, trying to source more responsibly and having a range that allows people to use this as an alternative to the supermarket. And some things, we don't kind of stamp the whole shop with this sort of 100% ethically assured, it would be lovely if we could, but that would both mean we had quite a small range, and it would also price a lot of people out of our offer. And that's really important for us, that, that we remain accessible to as many people as possible.
So do you do refill stuff? Do you compete?
Yeah, so
containers and
yeah, only on a small range at the moment. We just started doing that last year, and it's growing, and it's definitely something. I mean, there's been such a change in the landscape over the last couple of years of what people want and what's becoming possible. There are so many options now, and I think customers are really ready to embrace that way of shopping. So yeah, we're rolling it out.
So because you're not trying to rip suppliers off and you want to sell quality produce but also you want to, I mean, are your prices a little bit higher? Or
generally, like for like, we aim to be competitive with the supermarkets.
And is that because... Oh, go on. Sorry, yeah.
Well, I suppose it's that like for like thing that is important. So I don't know. It's hard to compare, a loaf of Happy Shopper bread to a loaf of, sort of artisan, overnight fermented organic flour bread.
Yeah, it's good stuff that you say. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, on the sort of basic products where comparison is easiest, like your tinned tomatoes, your pasta, your porridge oats, your herbs and spices, our prices are really, really competitive, and we're quite often offering organic versions at a similar price to the supermarket's non-organic versions. So yeah, we are definitely competing, and it really depends on how people cook. I mean, it's possible to come in and shop very, very savvily, and especially if you enjoy cooking and making things from scratch. But if you want to buy loads of salads from the deli counter, then it starts to get more expensive, as it would anywhere to shop like that. Yeah. But yeah, we do price comparisons pretty regularly. Obviously, internally, we're constantly checking our prices against the supermarkets, and then we do pass that information on to customers as well.
Do you think customers come to you because you're a co-op, or because of the good experience, or?
Yeah,
I mean, do you have customers who go out of their way to come to you, or is it just local people?
No, we definitely have customers that, people travel from a long way. People come regularly from places like Liverpool, Blackburn.
City, okay.
Yeah. I mean, most of our customers are within a few miles, but we definitely have people who have sort of found us and then will really go out of their way to come to us. Whether that's because we're a co-op or because of just the product we're offering and the prices, and I think it's the package probably for a lot of people. I don't think people would shop with us just because we were a co-op if we weren't getting the offer right. But equally, I think even though understanding of what a worker co-op is might not be like super high, there's definitely a sense that it is better somehow, even if people aren't totally sure, how it works internally.
Yeah.
And it's something we really try and shout about as much as we can.
I was going to ask you, do you explain to people how you operate?
Yeah, we do. Yeah. I mean, we have a few signs, like on the outside of our building, really in big letters, it says Unicorn Grocery Workers Cooperative. And inside as well, we have that on one of the walls in really big letters, because obviously there's only so much information people can absorb in signage format. But then we do things like, I mean, we have lots of information on the website. Every year when we do the newsletter, we do a sort of annual roundup for our customers. We always have stuff in there about co-ops, not just ourselves, but the co-op movement, more broadly. And we do displays from time to time. When we do events, we'll quite often invite other co-ops to come and speak. So yeah, it's a sort of a slow drip feeding of information, I guess, and I think it definitely is being absorbed.
What part of town are you in?
So we're in the south of Manchester, in a suburb called Chorlton.
And what kind of an area is that? Is it sort of middle class, up and coming? Is it a poorer area? Is it?
No, it's fairly middle class now. It wasn't so much when we started. But yeah, it's an affluent area now, to the point where a lot of us, certainly if we want, people that are looking to buy homes, we wouldn't be able to afford to buy in that area. But in terms of our customer base, it's surrounded by much less affluent areas. I'm at home at the moment in Moss Side, which is, not affluent at all. It's kind of almost inner city sort of, terraces. We've got lots of areas like that sort of ringing Chorlton, and that's actually where, quite a lot of our customers come from as well as just from Chorlton.
So I read that you've got a sister organisation, which is sort of a 20-acre land project, which is providing produce for the shop.
Well, it was, yeah. It was, yeah. We still own it. So we bought that back in, I think it was probably about 2007. It's 21 acres of land, about 15 miles away from the shop. And a new growing co-op was formed to farm there and to sell to us and to other locals. It was selling to a co-op, actually, another co-op. But that it hasn't worked out. It didn't prove viable for various reasons, which probably too complicated to go into now. So that growing co-op is just in the process of coming to an end, but they haven't actually been able to grow on that land. There was also a lot of disruption from some work that United Utilities did with water pipes going under the land that really disrupted the drainage. So that was a factor, but yeah, it hasn't worked out, and it's been an interesting lesson for us really in perhaps, the idea of sticking to what we know, which is grocery.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so what sort of ambitions do you have? Are you going to stay the same size, or do you want to? You want to help other groups to start?
Yeah. I mean, that we don't really have ambitions to grow, more than we are now. Really, like I said, we're limited by the site. Oh, hello. I could invite mine to join us as well. She's lurking somewhere.
No, he hears me talking to somebody else, and he just wants to get on.
Yeah, of course. So we don't really have ambitions to keep growing. It would be amazing to see. I mean, our toolkit has been used many, many times. I don't think anyone's exactly replicated what we do, but they've taken elements of it. And we went to visit a place called Hisby in Brighton a few weeks ago, who have used a lot of our stuff to set up their supermarket. But yeah, I think just seeing more individual worker co-ops setting up along similar lines would be our ambition really, and we do try and support people where we can to do that.